It looks like we've got a couple days of rain settling in our area, Northern Great Plains Zone 4. I'm Kevin, and I love these soaking rains. It just recharges that soil profile. And then the trees, the shrubs, perennials, they get off to such a great start once that sun pops back out. But today, I thought we'd take a tour, go around some of the various gardens on this rain day, and we'll highlight some of the plants as well as show you some photos of how things are going to look once we get into the growing season. Let's go ahead and get started on the tour. All right, as we come off the porch, I see our bird bath here. It's already overflowing. That's a good sign. We've got a little winter injury here on this Sherwood compact bristlecone pine, but I'm not too worried about it. Once the spring growth emerges, those candles break dormancy, it should fill in nicely. Off in the distance there, our first bed, one of my favorite shrubs in the center. This is a hydrangea hedge. There's 3 of them in there. The quickfire hydrangea. Look at those white flowers that start opening in July in our area. And as they mature, yeah, quickfire, this pinkish red that you see here lasts through August. But back when those flowers are opening, this is definitely one of the best shrubs you can plant to attract various pollinators. It's just incredible how many insects come in. Here's a globe Colorado spruce offering a nice contrast of color with that bright blue, and off in the distance, it's a tree that leaves out green, slowly turns into this purple leaf color for the rest of the season. It's the Canada red cherry. By the way, if you see a card flash across the top of the screen, that means I'll be adding a link in the description box to videos that take a closer look at some of the beds we'll be touring today. I really like these next 3 shrubs, the emerald carousel barberry with these bright yellow blooms in the spring, and check out the bright red fall color on these. And if you're wondering what that purple is off to the right, that's a tall aster, one of the latest perennials to bloom in the fall. Off in the distance around the corner here, there's several unique conifers adding color and interest, and they're surrounded by these beautiful flowering crabs. The spring snow and the red splendor with their bright white and pink spring flowers. And as we turn the corner here, off in the distance are some small trees that I'm keeping the lower branches trimmed up to expose those multi-stemmed ornamental trunks. Flame amur maple. Isn't that something? What a great name for this plant. And it looks like we've got a little winter burn here too on this mugo pine off to the right. But once that new growth emerges, that'll disappear. I'm keeping this pruned into this pincushion shape that you see here. And right behind it, it's a horseman's recurved larch. It's a really interesting contorted branching habit, very unique. The flowers here are just finishing up on that Canada red cherry we mentioned a moment ago. And it won't be long now the choke cherry fruits will begin to develop, a favorite for the birds and making jams and jellies. That conical blue spruce straight ahead is a Montgomery spruce, and the weeping spruce just over the bird bath, that's a Norway weeping spruce. They're not flowering yet, but these small shrubs in front of our Montgomery are gold star potentillas, great yellow blooms for the spring. I love conifers, and this is my favorite time of year to enjoy them. Watching those new buds open up and seeing all the different color variations the different conifer varieties have. Off to my right, I've just brushed up against the bloomerang lilac, an ever-blooming variety with continuous blooms throughout the season. But spring is definitely when it has the heaviest blooms. This next bed is one I took a closer look at in an earlier video covering many of the different plant varieties you see growing here. This is an interesting little tree to watch in the spring as these delicate silvery green leaves emerge. This is magnificent Macchia. And a great fast-growing hybrid oak for our area, the prairie stature oak. It also gets to the showy fall color. Hot Wings Tatarian maple here, you can see where it gets its name with these bright red samaras. This dwarf Scotch pine, it gave us a scare after going through its first winter, but now for many years it's just doing great in this location, and we're keeping it pruned into this bonsai type look. Coming up next is one of the first beds I created in our landscape. Unfortunately, that icy blue juniper in the front is starting to dominate and overtake this area. Here, though, is what I'd like to get it back to, opening up some space for a nice mix of ranging colors throughout the season with various perennials and flowers. The weeping conifer here is a European weeping larch. So rather than having that contorted branch we saw on the horseman's recurved larch, here we've got a gentle weeping habit. A couple of DeGroot spire arborvitaes doing very well here. They're one of the best upright arborvitaes for our area with rigid upright stems and this rich green color. Here's our small orchard. We've got a couple pear trees and several apple trees. And a nice golden Norway spruce with those spring gold needles that'll fade to green. And the Arcadia juniper ground cover mixed in with a dappled willow, and that willow has some excellent color ranges on its leaves throughout the growing season. And just behind the prairie stature oak we mentioned is Taylor's sunburst lodgepole pine. This is one of the more showy conifers in the spring with this bright golden yellow color that emerges in the spring. That'll last for several weeks before fading back into a deep green. Okay, let's get back to where we left off near those DeGroot's arborvitaes and take a look at the cardinal dogwood. This is a great plant to grow for winter interest with these bright cardinal red twigs, which will fade back into this olive green stem color. The blue carpet juniper here is another icy blue juniper, but this Sarah Bernhardt peony emerging out of the middle of the juniper gets all the attention in the spring with these large pink flowers. And if you want late summer blooms that last into fall, just to the right of our gazebo is limelight hydrangea. Look at these large white blooms that they'll fade to pink and then eventually the dried up flowers that offer some excellent winter interest. And soon that bare gazebo next to us, that'll be covered with grape leaves. You can't miss the yellow ribbon arborvitae just ahead with that year-round contrast with that bright golden yellow leaf color. And a favorite spring flowering ornamental tree right over here is the autumn brilliant serviceberry. Like the flame amber maple we looked at, I'm keeping the growth on these lower branches pruned off to expose these ornamental trunks. This pink flowering perennial is a fern leaf peony. It's an early bloomer and it's already nearing the end of its flowering cycle. And just to the right on the ground, those green tufts of growth, they'll soon be loaded with bluish flowers. The salvia or meadow sage. It's just one of the toughest perennials you're going to find. Let's quick backtrack past this Oregon green Austrian pine and take a quick look at a favorite spruce of mine, the Black Hills spruce. This tree's got perfect form and a nice soft bluish green color, just an excellent spruce. Way off in the distance is our water feature that we'll be looking at in just a little bit with that rusted pergola framing the area. But first, let's swing back to our left and show you two more beds. It's early yet, mid-May, and things are still waking up, but here is what we're going to be looking forward to. That blue salvia, a buckeye tree in the foreground, and it's hard to miss the yellow tiger eye sumac. And of course, we got Bandit leading the tour here. And just behind the tiger eyes are a few Savin junipers. And to the right, that light blue perennial on the ground is catmint, which is growing under that excellent lilac, the summer storm Japanese tree lilac. And that's also nearing the end of its flowering cycle. The buckeye trees, they're one of my favorite trees to watch in their spring as those leaves emerge from these large red buds and unfold into these drooping leaves. The flowers, they're already starting to emerge, which elongate into these yellowish white upright clusters. The Prince of Wales juniper, one of the best, I think, spreading green junipers. It's excellent choice for rock gardens. Up next, it's hard to miss that tall, weeping white spruce. And right next to it is another bristlecone pine. Similar to the Sherwood compact that we looked at the first part of the video, this is Joe's Bess bristlecone pine. This bed here, this is one that had some recent problems where I had extensive vole damage on this icy blue juniper, as well as some overgrown Grollo sumac and 9-barks that needed rejuvenation. But it was well worth the time to get in there and do some pruning, and I'm really happy with how this all turned out. Okay, let's take a closer look at a few things going on near our water feature. This is a royal frost birch, an excellent choice if you're looking for a purple leaf tree as well as showy bark that the birch trees offer. And we've got to mention that Bonnie blue spruce. This is just an excellent bright blue selection. It's got a shorter needle, a little bit more compact shape. We really enjoyed this tree in this location. And straight ahead are a couple of Technido arborvitaes, and just off to the right an amber gold arborvitae. Let's cut through this pathway here and I'll show you one of the most narrow beds I made that I put in a while back. Yeah, don't forget about winter interest when you're doing your planning and planting. It's an important consideration. I really love this photo. I guess, you know what, winter is not so bad after all. And that shrub directly in front of us with all the dead twigs, it's a black lace elderberry. For whatever reason, it's not fully hardy, but after I cut it back, it comes back with a vengeance. And it's got these nice purple leaves, and sometimes I can get flowering on some of the lower growth. That empty metal container that you see there used to have an Alaskan blue weeping cedar in it, but it died out on me after many years. So I'm looking for a new interesting conifer to add to this opening. Since we're usually not outside for these longer rainy events, I usually shut my pumps off. But here's a quick look at how our basalt pillars look. When that water's flowing, and a closer look at this area as well. Let's take a quick look from a higher vantage point. Let's go ahead and go up these deck steps and we'll take a look at some of the beds we've just toured. I'm always amazed when I look back at this early photo. The before photo, a blank slate. I didn't really have a master plan, quite honestly. I just started planting and kept digging, and I'm sure glad I did. This is a Gotelli spruce next to our deck steps. I just love how it's doing here, but we had some rabbit damage this last winter on the lower branches. So we got that pruned off, and it's a new chapter and a whole new look. Let's wrap this up by going back down and show you one final bed. I've got an earlier video on this bed as well if some of the varieties are catching your eye. Here again, I'm looking forward to our perennials once they fully emerge and start their flowering cycle. So while sunny days are more often enjoyed by most of us, I sure like rainy days like this too. That's all I've got for now. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Thanks for stopping by Garden Hike. We'll see you again next video.